Hey guys, JP Dillon. Today we're looking at an Onkyo TA-RW909 dual cassette with the Power Glide loading system. And we're just going to do a brief overview on how to service this thing so that it works right. I've already done deck number 1 and verified that the loading system and everything works. So we're going to get into deck number 2 now. And the nice thing about this machine is that it's entirely modular service. You'll need to cut the zip tie here to get the door sensor unplugged. It's your motor control and your sensors for tape type and whatnot, and then down there is your tape head, which just pulls out. And there's the motor control that operates the loading system here and here. I've already taken some video on testing the cam, so we'll paste that all together towards the end. So really, to get inside of this thing, go ahead and take loose the top screws here. One down, and the other one's kind of buried underneath here. I know what you're thinking, why not just do the ones on the top? Well, then you get a clearance problem, and so it's easier to take the ones out from the top rear. And now let's go towards the bottom. On the bottom, you're going to want to remove the front feet. So just take your Phillips head screwdriver, pop them out, and then you'll find holes that allow you to take the transport out. And that's the same on the right side as it is the left. So we're going to go ahead and take these out. Alright, now that you've got the screws out top and bottom, we'll need to rotate the loading cam so that we can get things apart. And let me take that paperwork down there so some of this privacy doesn't get violated. Alright, next. Alright, so what you're going to want to do is rotate this cam here. And just go ahead and rotate it to where the door opens. And your switch is at the stop point here. And then you're going to have to kind of finesse this out, and you may have to push down here at the corner to get this to clear. The left side's much easier than the right, but as you can see, you clear it and you kind of lift back. Be careful that you don't smash any of the components here. Bit of a chore. Alright, left one came out easy, right one's going to fight me. So in this case, maybe I will take this bracket loose. Alright, so on the left one, you won't have to take the bracket loose. You can leave this one here. On the right one, you apparently do. So we'll lift this out. Oops, forgot to cut the zip tie. Let me go ahead and do that. Alright, here's your tape transport. It's out. It's serviceable. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this plate off that contains the sensors. And then we'll be able to get the cam off and the intermediate gear there, and then the belt, and finally the motor, which is this guy here that operates your loader. Once you get those out, then there are 1, 2, 3 screws here which allow you to take this plate off, and then once we get that off and get the belt loose, there's a screw here which we'll take off, a clip here, pull the cover plate off, and then we need to get the screws loose that hold the motor in, desolder the motor so that we can replace the belt. So let's snap to it. And of course, this is the one that's going to fight me. Let's see. So number 1 Phillips should do you. Just going to break this one loose. Pull it out. And this one here. Ugh, stubborn. This is just frustrating sometimes. I don't have a tripod that'll come up enough for this bench, so I'm just holding the camera here while I do this. So, sensor comes off. Go ahead and pinch this so that you have clearance to pull the cam out past the ear teeth. It just flew out. And then this comes out next. And then you can take your belt off. You can leave this guy alone. You might want to spin it to check that it's free and moving. And then we've got the little motor here, which needs to come out. And I don't need 2 hands for that because they've got Loctite on them. So let me pop those loose. Alright, got 1 screw loose. I'm going to take loose the other one. And then the motor falls out. Just going to put the screws over here with the other tiny guys. And now that your motor out and your switch are one piece you can just set aside over here. Take note, this collar piece here on this motor, and that has to line up with the little nubbins here on the mount, which you'll find out when you put it back together. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and take the transport screws loose here that hold in the backing plate for the flywheels. Set that there. And there's our 3rd screw there. And here comes the backing plate. Now, you might be good, but I don't think that you can... Let's kill a wind noise. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot I had my fan on. You're not going to be able to snake the new belt in here. I don't care how good you are. So before you can take the belt loose, you're going to have to take the motor loose, which means you're going to want to desolder those. They're in a linear pattern, so don't worry about mixing them up. Just go straight across. And then we have to remove the backing plate here. And there's a clip on this side you pinch to get the plate up, out, and away. Now this is where the fun begins. You can get to this screw easily enough for the motor right here. That's the easy part. However, to get to the other screw that's holding the motor in, you're going to need something shorter. Something like this. This is number 0 Phillips. It's made by Shure. It's for installing cartridges. This is about 3 inches in length. And this is the one that I can fit down in here and bust that screw loose with. There we go. Any longer than 3 inches and you won't clear the door. So it's always nice to have those specialty tools. Now we need to desolder this, which I'm going to need 2 hands for. But when I get this desoldered, we'll pull the motor out and we'll change the belt. Alright, once you've got it desoldered, grab onto your motor, tilt and pull it out, the old belt. There's your belt. If you want good belts, you talk to Mars Communications and you get a belt kit from them. It ain't cheap, but it's great. If you just want to get her done, you look for the PRB FRW 8.5, and for the loading belt, you want the SEX 4.0. That will get you there. So, if you're curious, here's the FRW 8.5. VP just stands for value pack. It's got 10 in a box, 10 in a bag. You can get these through Russell Industries. You can find them online. They're okay belts. It's not great, but it'll get it done. And then the SEX 4.0, similar package, 4-inch square belt, and that will work for your loading system. So before we get too crazy, do a motor spin test. Listen to it. That one sounds quiet. If you get ones that rattle or that have noise, get yourself an oiler syringe. And then what I do is you might have to do this at an angle to make it a little bit tricky, but I get down in there with a drop of oil and oil that top bearing there. Won't need much. And then work the oil in and make sure that motor's nice and quiet before you put a belt on it. I don't think I quite got everything in there. It really needs 2 hands, so let me do that and then I'll show you how to route the belt. Now before we proceed, it's always a good idea to take some alcohol and a Q-tip and clean off the old belt residue. But you can just rotate the capstan with your finger and go on it, the surface with a Q-tip soaked in denatured alcohol, isopropanol 99% or better. Either way is fine. And just clean that surface. Likewise with the motor pulley. Just go ahead and clean the motor pulley. You get a little bit of scuzz off of there, not much. Alright, now as far as getting the belt on there, I've already pulled one. This is a new FRW 8.5, and if we look at them side by side, we can see that the old belt is a little stretched enough that it would be a concern. Also, the surface of the belt, see it's got that slick center area there. That just tells you it's worn out. Now the way that you want to do this is, it really requires 2 hands, but I can usually do it one. Get it wrapped around the motor pulley first and get it up in here into the transport. And the motor mounts will help keep the belt in place a little bit. Well, anyway, let me get it to that point and then we'll go from there. So the idea is to keep tension on the belt while you finesse one of the screws that holds the motor in here. And then the bottom part of the belt, you want to go around this pulley like so. And bear with me here because I'm doing this single-handed. And the other part of the belt gets routed like this. You see that? And you want the pulleys to turn in the opposite directions because this is an auto reverse deck. You also don't want the belt to ride on the edge of the pulley. And I don't know if we'll be able to see this up in here. Probably not. Yeah, it's a little tricky. I can see that it's riding on the center of the pulley. The camera can't really, but I can see it. Let's see if I can increase the exposure. Yeah, it's hard to see back there, but it's riding on the center of the pulley. That's what I want. So now the last thing to do before we start putting this back together too much is get the motor screw that we took out and put that back in. And then we're going to solder our motor back up. I'm not going to put the inspection plate on yet because we need to resurface our pinch rollers. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But I'm going to solder this guy up, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so now that we got our motor back in place, you'll want to do the pinch rollers. Now there's a little clip here and a little clip there, and what you want to do is pull back on those very gently. You can usually get your fingernail in there and pull back up and off on them to where you can get a tool underneath and push up, and they do pop off. And then I can show you how to resurface them. So what I do, we're going to put a little bit of leverage on this, and I'm going to pull back on the clip with my fingernail, and you can see they pop off like that. Spring tension is self-contained, so don't worry about the spring flying off. And then you can kind of grab them and pull them out. Likewise with the other one here, apply a little bit of downward pressure, pull back on the clip, and they come out. And to reinsert them, just make sure that this guide pin here goes down into that hole, and that will guide the pinch rollers up. So now for resurfacing them. Best way to do that is with some 1000 grit sandpaper, and I pull this way as I go down at an angle. I need a hand to hold the paper there, so I'm probably not going to be able to do it on camera, but you just pull back at an angle and it will resurface it. So here it is right now, kind of crummy looking, and I'm going to resurface it and you'll see the difference. So after resurfacing it, this is just maybe 4 or 5 swipes, you can see that the surface is nice and uniform. It's not shiny and slick. So I'll do the other one and then we'll pop these two back in. Alright, pinch roller number 1. Again, we're going to get that pin into that guide hole and just press down until it clicks. And we're going to do the other one here. This one might be a little bit trickier. Get the hub over top of this. You can't really do it from the bottom, there's not enough room. You got to do it from the top side, which is why having that inspection plate off is a good idea. If I can just get my hand to cooperate with me, we can get this on the shaft here. And again, watch the pin go down into the guide hole like this, and it just clicks in. And you can do a test by pushing up on the head assembly and seeing if both pinch rollers start to come up at the same time. That's what you want. Now, as far as reinserting the guide plate, there's a groove down here. Let me light this up for you. And you want to get this plate into that groove down there. See that little slot? That's where that needs to go. It's in that slot there. And then press down on the clip here to get it locked in. If it will cooperate with me, it's not wanting to at the moment. There we go. And then put your screw back in here. Alright, it's also a good idea to clean your heads while you're in here and your capstans. These ones look pretty clean already. I'll do a once over them before I put the thing back together. So now at this point, let's go ahead and put the backing plate back on here for the capstan support. I always like to put the long guide screw in first. And then the other 2 screws on the bottom here. And just to speed things up, because I need 2 hands, I'm going to stop and do the other ones. Alright, now that that's in, let's focus on getting the control motor back in for the door. And remember, these 2 holes here have to line up with these 2 spots here. So you may have to kind of fidget with it a little bit to get it into that spot. And then you'll want to, once you get it lined up, insert those screws in there that we had. They're those guys there. Again, I'm going to need 2 hands, so let's do that. Alright, now that your motor's in, go ahead and take your new STX 4.0 and get it around your pulley. And then the next thing you want to do is take that intermediate gear, stick it here. Now here comes the fun part, and that's having to wrestle with the cam. As you can see, there's a bunch of cam followers here, and they have to line up with this pin back here, and with this pin here. And they all interact together so that as the cam rotates, the door opens, the cassette loader loads and unloads the cassette here, and then the switch locks everything into place, and then the cam's also got to bump these 2 detect switches here. So this is a 2-handed job. This is a pain in my butt, but you'll get it. The important thing is to turn it all by hand and make sure that nothing jams. And after we're done with this, I'll show you the cam check, which will be part of the video before we move on. Alright, so here it is with the cam reassembled in the correct sequence. And as I turn it, you can see that it unlatches. That's the first thing it does, is it unlatches, opens the door, and as it is opening, it allows the cassette to be pushed up into the well before we reach the stop part. Alright, likewise when it closes, cassette goes down, door begins to close, and then finally the mechanism latches. So now what you need to do is turn the cam about halfway and then reinstall your detect plate, which is this guy. And go ahead and fit that just like so. And you're probably going to need to finagle with it a little bit. This is where it's really helpful to have a magnetic screwdriver, he says, dropping the screw on the floor. Isn't this fun? Sorry about the fan noise earlier again. It's hotter than blazes here, and we don't have AC in the shop. It's about 94 in the shade and about 105 in the sun, or at least that's what it feels like. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this in eject mode like this for putting it back in. Double check that everything has got all of its screws in it, that everything's soldered up, that you're done, you're ready to proceed. Give the capstan a quick spin, make sure there's nothing rubbering or binding. Alright. So let's put it back in. Okie dokie. So we're going to tilt this thing down and in, like so. And we're going to get these holes to line up down here, just like that. And we're going to put the top piece back in. I didn't have to take this piece out on the other side, just this side. Yeah. Anyway, another two-handed thing. Anyways, we're going to put the screws back in here, all on the bottom, and then we're going to hook it up. Let's not forget the super fun, awesome screws that are on the bottom holding everything together too. And then after we're done with this mess, we have to put the feet back on. So, yeah, there's a little more assembly that needs to be done. Again, more two-handed stuff. Alright, so here it is all back in. Just do a double check on your wires that you got your motor hooked up, your sensors and your drive control, the head, and the door switch, detect switch, which is that guy down there with the red and white lead. So all that's left now to do is to plug it in and see if our eject cycle and our load cycle works. Alright, so we've got a bit of an issue. it's not fully closing. And so we need to watch it close. And it does hit the cam sensor switch. Then it opens back up again. So the things that come to mind is that cam sensor switch is bad, or there's a loss of communication maybe in the contacts here. Of course, it doesn't want to make it so that I can see anything, but the solder looks good. So now we need to test and see if the switch is okay. Alright, so what you're seeing is my ESR meter, and I'm going to ohm out the door open detect switch. And that ohms out. And now let's go to our door close detect switch. Which is non-functional. So there you go. That switch is bad. So that will have to be replaced somehow or repaired. Not sure where I'm going to find one of those little buggers. But that's why our door isn't staying shut. Now obviously we're not going to be able to finish this deck because it's malfunctioning, because the detect switch is bad. However, the deck that I did service, I'm going to see if I can get it to work, because right now this thing is just going nuts trying to get this to open and close. Once it's cleared its error, we're going to slap a tape in here and see if it plays correctly. Of course, it might not work now that this one's all freaked out. Yeah, that's great. Now I got to figure out a way to deal with that switch. Let's see if it'll behave. Or is it going to freak out on me? Let's make sure I got this all hooked up. Yeah, it may be that it has to complete its loading cycle. In order to be able to deal with that. Because right now it's not doing anything. And even though I've jumpered across the bad switch to emulate it being closed, it doesn't like that. It wants to be able to check it on its own. So this could be a little bit tricky. I'm going to have to find a solution for that one. Or maybe just disconnect it for now and see what it does there. Alright, let's try this once more. Let's see if this thing will behave itself. Nope, still doesn't. You really got to have that switch on that cam. This machine won't engage a function until both drawers are closed and it detects both are closed. So I may not be able to finish this repair video for you guys, but I'm going to try something here in a minute. I'm going to try fooling the machine into believing it's closed and then get one of the decks into play mode and see if that will allow me to get it working so that you can hear it at least. Alright, well anyways, what I had to do was I had to fool the machine briefly by shorting the switch contact together so that I could get this to suck the tape in and play it. But it sounds pretty good. Fast forward, rewind, all that stuff works. So yeah, I'm going to have to find a solution for that switch, because without it this tape deck really doesn't do much. See, as soon as I do a logic function like ejecting and go to suck it back in, because it's not detecting this ready, it won't close this, which is stupid programming, but nevertheless that's how it is. So I need to find another solution for that switch. And now I can't even turn the thing off. It's literally frozen up because it's looking for that input. So, dumb microprocessor. And now it's trying to eject and reclose the drawer because it's like, ooh, it's not closed, it's jammed, whatever. But anyways, that's how to service the transport on this. And I should have thought to check those switches before I did anything else. So now I have to find a switch for this stupid thing to get the control cam to work properly. And but that's how you do it. That's how you replace the belts, resurface the pinch rollers, all that sort of thing. I can't really go into aligning the cam because that's just something you check and trial and error until you get everything lined up. But hey, you can't always fix them perfect. And I really only edited this in the sense of just kind of cutting stuff out that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, it didn't get totally fixed. I was able to verify that the side that I had repaired worked fine, but until I find that stupid little cam switch, that one isn't going to do squat. And right now the machine's frozen up until I can emulate that being closed and ready, which I just did temporarily by shorting the 2 points with the hemostats. But in any case, it's some little tiny piddly switch, and it's got a big lobe on it. This one up here is fine. It's the one down here that's not working. It doesn't ohm out anymore. So I'll figure something out. If I can, I'll make another video on this thing. If not, I'm going to have to harvest one of these switches out of another donor, which might be tricky to find. We'll see. But in any case, this was how to service one. So thanks for watching. And if I can figure out a solution, you'll see it in another video. Okay, well what I've done is I've taken another detect switch out of another cassette transport I had, and I don't know if you can see that here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but I've taken a soldering iron and I fused the little plastic tab that's the plunger. I have fused the plunger to it so that hopefully it will work. Only way to tell is to pop it back in the machine and see if it actually functions correctly. But I think that's going to be our only chance at fixing it. It's a totally bizarro style switch with a really long actuator that I can't seem to find in Mauser DigiKey or other places. So I took this tiny little detect switch that I found off of a Technics transport and fused the little plastic hinge to it, and it does work, and it's sturdy. So let's see. Okay, so there it is back in the assembly. And if I rotate the cam, and I get it to brush up against the plunger there doesn't seem to be any interference, and the door closes and all that. So let's hook it up. Alright, moment of truth. Does the little red light stop blinking? Yes, they do. Does this open? Yep. Does this open? It does. Awesome. Speed's a little fast, but it works. Awesome. So, if you're curious about speed, that's up here. We'll see if we can tweak the speed a little bit. I might just do it by ear because I've heard Flock of Seagulls so many times. There we go. Opens. Let's just compare it with the other side. There we go. Tweaky tweaky. Alright, now this could use a minor tweak on the head alignment, but I'm not going to do that because he's not paying for it, and he's got a lot of tapes he recorded on this that I don't want to mess with the alignment, because if they were recorded shitty and I realign the heads, they're going to sound shitty. So, but anyways, it works, and it's now finally fixed because of a little ingenuity. Not very fun, but in any case, I was able to finish the video for you. Hope you enjoyed watching it, and hope this is useful to you when you've got one of these things that's seems like it's down for the count.